In the previous video, I showed you how to allow users to create accounts on your website. In this video, I'll explore the account controller's various authentication features that allow users to authenticate themselves after they've created their account. If you're still logged in from when we left off in the last video, go ahead and log off now so we can see what registered users must go through to authorize themselves. After you've logged out, go ahead and navigate to the login page again, either by clicking the login link or navigating to a protected controller action. Now, take a moment to examine your options. On the left side of the page is the standard user login form that you've been used to seeing on the web for years. This one is pretty straightforward. It posts to the login action on the account controller. This action then checks to make sure that the model is valid, in other words, that you entered a username and password and did not leave them blank, and then once again relies on the web security helper to attempt to log you in with those credentials. When the login works, you're redirected back to the page that you last visited. When the login fails, it sends you back to the login form view to try again. Pretty simple, huh? What's not so simple is the option on the right side of the page, the ability to authenticate yourself through external sites such as Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, or Google. As the message indicates, you'll need to explicitly enable each of those providers that you want to allow your users to authenticate themselves against. If you do not want to allow users to authenticate against any external providers, you can feel free to edit the login view and simply remove this markup, the section named Social Login Form, so that it will not be displayed. At that point, the only option that users will be left with is the standard login form. If you do want to allow users to authenticate against external providers, however, you'll need to do just a little more work. You'll enable external providers through code, but luckily you don't actually have to write this code. Visual Studio has already written it for us. It's just commented out. To view this commented out code, open up the auth-config class in the app start folder. Then, in order to enable each individual provider, go ahead and uncomment its code block. Notice how the Facebook, Twitter, and Microsoft methods all require additional information. This is because these providers all require you to register with them and get an API key so that they can control who is using their services. Since registering for these keys is kind of out of the scope of this course, and since Google doesn't actually require this registration, I'm going to demonstrate how external providers work by using Google as my example. To enable Google authentication, which allows users to log in with their Google or Gmail accounts, simply uncomment line 29, recompile your site, and visit the login page again. This time, you'll see the option to authenticate with Google. Click it, and you'll be sent to Google servers to sign in. If you're not already signed in to a Google account, you'll need to sign into Google's site first. Then you'll be redirected to a confirmation page that tells Google that you're okay with logging into our demo auction site using Google's authentication. Click Allow to allow this. What follows next is a bit of back and forth between our server and the authentication provider, in this case Google. The specifics of this back and forth are also a bit out of the scope of this course, but I can sum it up by saying that it involves most of the account controller actions Once you register your new account, or if you've already logged in using the external account in the past, you'll be logged in as a fully authenticated user. And that's all there is to it. As this video shows, the account management code that Visual Studio generates for you right out of the box makes it incredibly easy to offer your users a number of modern authentication options with a bare minimum of work on your part. Now that users are able to log into your site, however, we've inadvertently opened up the users of our site to a potential security threat called cross-site request forgery. To find out what exactly this security threat is and how to defend against it, please continue on to the next video.